What's going on, Nines Conference? It's good to be back with you again this year. I love the Nines Conference, so accessible for our teams to grow together in our own environments. And so thank you for doing such a great job. I started Next Level Church 7 years ago in America's least churched region, New England. If you were to walk down the streets of New England, if you were to walk into a store or a restaurant and ask someone, do you go to church? You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who would answer you in an entire day with the answer, yes, I attend church regularly. You'd be hard-pressed to find that. Matter of fact, studies show that 3% of people, 3% in New England attend church regularly. It's a very unchurched region. And so when we started Next Level Church 7 years ago, we clearly understood the importance of reaching those that didn't identify with any faith. Reaching the nones. We understood there was a very clear reality that if we didn't reach them, then we weren't going to be too successful. We also understood as a young team, a young staff, that we had to reach those that were our age. We had to reach millennials. We had to do things that were going to reach those that were our age because, as we all know, it's easiest to reach those that identify with you most clearly. And so when we started Next Level Church, those were really our two tactics. Let's reach unchurched and let's reach those that are our age, and let's at least do those two things well. And we believe God will give us many other things if we do those things well. And so when we started, we moved on this word relevance. We wanted to be a relevant church, a relevant church. And if you were to look through the church world today, what you would find is there's been a major pendulum shift over the last 10, 20 years, whatever you would say. There's been a major pendulum shift, and it's been this idea of becoming relevant. Let's be relevant. And so if you were to look at the church of old, you would see that maybe it was out of touch with culture. Maybe it felt like you were stepping back years upon years when you'd go to church, and then you'd go home, turn on the television, and it was like, whoa, the world, the culture we live in is so much different. And so what the church did is it said, let's catch up to culture. Let's be relevant in the teaching of the gospel message. And so pastors that always wore suits threw on jeans and t-shirts and low V-necks. Worship leaders, man, that would wear button-ups, man, they throw on V-necks, tight, skinny jeans they can barely fit in. And even better, they put on a winter hat often so that Jesus could really, really move in the worship sets, right? We stripped down the pews and we put in chairs and we put in lights and we put in haze and we created rock sessions. And we said, that's relevance and that will reach millennials. That will reach the unchurched. And I think to a degree it helps. But I think what it does best is it keeps those who are already in church and it piques interest of those who are already interested in church. But I'm not sure it does that good of a job reaching those that are nuns. I don't think any nun, someone who has no association with faith, is going to say, man, they got really cool lights. Let's go there. And so in this attempt at reaching people, what we've done is we've swung the pendulum to being relevant. It's the huge push in the Christian world. Let's be relevant. Let's be relevant. And I'm all about relevance. I believe Next Level Church is very relevant in its approach at teaching the gospel message. But I think there's a word that eats relevance for breakfast. I think there's a word we must focus on over relevance, and it's realness. Realness. Because millennials, nuns, the next generation could care less about how relevant we are if it's not who we are, if we're not being real. And so I think what we have to focus on in order to reach these groups of people is we have to focus on having a real brokenness. We have to focus on authenticity. We have to focus on being willing to not be perfect. We have to focus on being who we are. And so you see so many churches changing their names and so many pastors who've never worn jeans and they don't feel comfortable preaching in jeans, putting on jeans to try to reach millennials. The problem is millennials, nuns, they walk in and they can taste it. They can sense it. It's just not who we are. It's not who they are. And I believe with everything in me that millennials, nuns, the next generation want to walk into a church that is real and honest in who they are. And you can play an organ sitting in pews, dressed in tuxedos. And millennials will respect that more than a hip show with skinny jeans and big lights if it's not who we are. Millennials care who we are, not as much what we do. They've been sold, saturated with fake marketing, false marketing, and hype. They want realness, the real gospel message presented. Be real and relevant, but realness has to flow through your relevance.